My sister slipped something into my drink at her anniversary celebration. With a smile that masked her deceit, I quietly swapped glasses with her husband. And then everything shifted. Hey, Reddit. It was meant to be a joyful occasion, my sister's 10th wedding anniversary. A sparkling night filled with lights, music, and laughter. But beneath all that glitter, something darker lurked. From the moment I entered, I could feel her gaze on me. Clara, my older sister, looked flawless in her dress, hair, and smile, yet her heart had long stopped being sisterly. She greeted me as if nothing had ever transpired between us. As if she hadn't taken my idea and my promotion 5 years ago, or stolen credit for the most significant project of my career, while I got fired for incompetence. But tonight, I wasn't there to dwell on the past. I came because Mom insisted, claiming family forgives. So I smiled, played along, and watched her husband, Ryan, as she leaned in to whisper in his ear, living her fairy tale life. Then, halfway through the evening, it happened. Clara approached me with 2 champagne glasses, her red lipstick shining in the candlelight. For you, she said, handing me one. You look radiant tonight, sis. Her tone was sweet, too sweet. That's when I noticed it. Just as she lifted her glass, her hand shook slightly, not from nerves, but anticipation. Our eyes met, and for a brief moment, her smile faltered, revealing something cold beneath. That's when I spotted it, a faint shimmer on the surface of my drink, like an oily ripple that didn't belong. My heart raced, and my throat went dry. She looked away, feigning a wave to a guest. Instinct, or maybe survival, kicked in. I smiled back, lifted my glass, and as she turned to her husband, I gently switched ours. No one noticed. Not a soul in that room saw what had just occurred. A few minutes later, she clinked glasses with Ryan. They laughed and she drank. Well, she thought she did. In reality, she handed him my glass. I waited 1 minute, then 2, and as the crowd cheered for their dance, Ryan stumbled. His expression shifted to confusion, pain, then panic. The glass shattered in his hand. Ryan, Clara exclaimed, "What's wrong?" He didn't respond. He dropped to his knees. The room erupted. People screamed and rushed forward. Chaos ensued. And Clara froze, her face paling. For a moment, I stood completely still. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But something inside urged me to stay. Instead, I watched her, observing the horror spread across her face as paramedics were called, guests panicked, and her husband was taken away. She caught my eye, and in that single glance I knew she understood. She realized what had happened, what I had seen, and worse, she knew I had done something she never expected. I had outsmarted her. Hours later, I sat in the hospital waiting area, the same one where the paramedics had taken Ryan. Mom and Dad arrived, terrified. Clara was sobbing, clutching her coat. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. "What happened?" Mom asked, trembling. Clara's voice broke. "He collapsed during dinner. I don't know what happened. But I did, and I think she knew I knew." The doctors emerged hours later. Ryan had survived. They found traces of a sedative in his system, something potent enough to incapacitate a grown man for hours. The police claimed it was likely an accident, a tainted drink. They asked questions, took statements, but no one suspected the truth. No one but me. Because when I returned home that night, I couldn't stop replaying her face, that flicker of panic when the glass slipped from her hand. That frozen moment when she realized her plan had backfired. The next morning, I got a text. "Clara, we need to talk alone." I didn't reply. Later that day, she showed up at my door. When I opened it, she stood there, pale and trembling, eyes filled with fear and rage. "You switched the glasses," she said quietly. "Didn't you?" I didn't respond. "What did you see?" she demanded. "You don't understand." I chuckled softly. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You tried to poison me. The real question is why." Her expression twisted. For the first time, I saw the truth behind that perfect facade. She wasn't just angry. She was terrified. "You ruined my life," she whispered. You always think you're better than me. That job, that project, it was supposed to be mine. Everything was supposed to be mine. Her voice broke. You don't know what it's like to live in your shadow. I was meant to be the successful one. I stared at her in disbelief. So, you thought killing me would solve that? For a moment, silence hung between us. Then she began to cry, not sounding guilty, but like shame had finally caught up with her. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she said something I'll never forget. It wasn't supposed to be lethal. She sobbed. It was just meant to make you sick. To humiliate you. That's when I realized it wasn't madness. It was control. Even now, she still wanted to win. I called the police that afternoon, and when they arrived, she didn't resist. She just looked at me, hollow and empty, and whispered, "You'll regret this." But I didn't, because for once in my life, I wasn't her victim. That night, I sat by the window as rain tapped against the glass. I poured myself a drink, this time, one I could trust, and gazed into my reflection. The woman staring back wasn't the same one who had walked into that party. She was colder, stronger, and finally free. The truth is, sometimes the people who smile the sweetest hide the sharpest knives. And sometimes survival isn't luck. It's instinct. But just when I thought the nightmare was over, the police called me again. They had discovered something else in her house, something that altered everything I thought I knew about that night. It had been 3 days since the party, 3 days since my sister was taken away. I thought it was finished. I thought justice had been served. But then the phone rang again. "Miss Turner, this is Detective Hale. We need you to come to the station. It's about your sister." Something in his tone twisted my stomach. Not urgency, but unease. I grabbed my coat and 15 minutes later was back in that cold, gray police station, the same place where I had recently given my statement about the poison drink. The detective gestured toward a chair. "Please have a seat." He placed a folder on the table, thick and filled with photographs and documents. Then he said the words that made my hand shake. "Your sister didn't act alone." I blinked. "What?" He opened the folder and slid a photo toward me, a screenshot from Clara's phone. A text message thread read, "Payment received." The sender's name? Mom. I froze, my breath hitching. "No," I whispered. "That's impossible. My mother would never." The detective sighed. "We traced several money transfers from your mother's account to Clara's over the past month. They align with large withdrawals from your sister's joint account with her husband." He leaned back. "We believe this wasn't spontaneous. It was planned." I shook my head, my voice trembling. "Planned for what? To hurt me? Why?" He met my gaze steadily. "That's what we're trying to understand." Hours later, I drove to my parents' house. The rain poured harder now, streaking the windshield and blurring the streetlights into ribbons of gold. When I arrived, Mom was sitting by the window, staring out as if she had been waiting. She didn't seem surprised to see me. If anything, she looked exhausted. "You spoke to the police," she said softly. "Of course you did." I dropped my umbrella by the door, my heart racing. "Why, Mom?" I whispered. "Why would you give Clara money? Why would you?" She didn't look at me, expecting me to stop. She turned to me, eyes red and voice trembling. "She came to me a month ago, said you were threatening her marriage, that you'd been jealous for years. She said you wanted to ruin her life. I gave her the money, so she'd leave you alone. I thought it was over. I didn't know she'd." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know she'd try to hurt you." I stared at her, stunned. Every word felt like it was tearing something open inside me. "You believed her?" I said slowly. "After everything she's done, you believed her over me?" Mom buried her face in her hands. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "She's always been fragile. She couldn't handle the comparisons, your success, your independence. I thought I was protecting her." I let out a hollow laugh. "Protecting her? She tried to poison me." Silence enveloped the room. Outside, thunder rumbled across the sky. Then something shifted in Mom's expression, something small but cold. "She said you switched the glasses," she whispered. "That means her husband drank what was meant for you. You could have stopped it, but you didn't." My breath caught. You think this is my fault? She didn't answer, but her silence was enough. That's when I realized the betrayal hadn't started at the party. It had begun long before. With every time she defended Clara, excused her lies, and ignored my pain, I took a deep breath. Mom, I said quietly, you need to tell the police everything. Every payment, every lie. If you don't, I will. Her eyes widened. You wouldn't. You're right, I said, turning toward the door. I wouldn't have before, but I've learned something recently. Family doesn't mean loyalty when loyalty is one-sided. And with that, I walked away. That night, the detectives arrested Mom for being an accessory to attempted assault. It didn't matter that she hadn't meant for things to go that far. The evidence was undeniable. When the news broke, our entire family fell apart. Dad moved out of state. Clara's husband filed for divorce, and my mother, the woman who once held us together, sat behind glass walls, crying for a daughter she helped destroy. Months went by as I tried to rebuild my life, new apartment, new job, new routine. But peace doesn't come easily when your past still knocks at your door. One evening, I received a letter. No return address, just my name in Clara's handwriting. Inside it read, "You were always the smarter one. You were never meant to die that night, just to hurt the way I've hurt all these years. But now we're even. And maybe now you'll finally understand what it's like to lose everything." I read it twice, then tore it into pieces and watched them scatter in the wind. That was her last attempt to control me, to make me feel guilty for surviving. And I wouldn't let her win, not anymore. I didn't forgive her, but I stopped allowing her name to echo in my mind. Because sometimes peace doesn't come from closure. It comes from finally walking away without looking back. A year later, on the anniversary of that night, I sat at a cafe near the ocean. The air was calm, the world quiet, and as I sipped my drink, clear, simple, untouched, I smiled to myself. To survival, I whispered, because that's what this was about. Not revenge, but freedom, the kind you earn after confronting those who tried to bury you and learning to grow anyway. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those who share your blood. But in the end, it's not their poison that defines you. It's your choice to rise above.